Welcome back to episode 14 of The Daily Entrepreneur. I'm Josh here with Jack and James. Today we got some great articles for you guys, starting out with Jack. Let's get it.
Joy Gendusa is asking her employees to bring their families and their pets into the office to work during Hurricane Ian. What are y'all's thoughts on this?
I just think it's selfish. I mean, she said that she's lived in Florida for over 30 years and that she's gone through countless hurricanes and that, they just always turn out to be more hype than what they actually are. But I don't think you can ask your employees to just come in. Like, you can't just say, hey, come into work, guys, Category 4 hurricane, leave your homes and come into work. It's very selfish.
Yeah, and like you said, if I were, the employees in that situation, I'm definitely prioritizing, the health and safety of my family over, going in to work that job. So, I mean, with that being said, it's going to be interesting, I guess, to see the backlash that she gets from this, if there's any legal action from employees, or if the state steps in and does anything about it.
Yeah, well, she said that she was concerned about her national clients. Pretty much, she doesn't want to stop production for the clients that aren't in Florida, which, that's great to be noble thinking about company profits, but you're not going to have a company if everybody decides to resign. I think it's a little ridiculous that you're saying, well, we care about your safety, so just come into the office.
Yeah.
Just come work.
Yeah.
While, your house is getting torn down and, flooded, losing your car.
Yeah, I wonder what that first week's going to look like back. I mean, do you think that she's going to address the office and be like, hey, my bad, guys?
I personally think she's probably going to resign. I just think employees just aren't going to trust her since they feel that she just doesn't care about their health and safety over company profits. They're not going to want to back somebody on that. They think wouldn't take like a bullet for them or something like that. So.
Absolutely. And I thought it was pretty ironic that a lot of the employees were saying that she was in, her SUV driving away, telling everyone to come in when it was just like she's leaving and she's telling people to come in.
Yeah, she's not even fighting the fight with the people herself.
Yeah.
She's not even on the battlefield with them. It's ridiculous. So
meeting culture is costing companies $101 million a year. The average employee spends 1/3 of their work week in meetings. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, if there's somebody that I know that's notorious for kicking people out of meetings, it's Elon Musk. I mean, he has a fine line that if you don't need to be in that meeting, he will stop the meeting and tell you to get out. Because he's paying engineers over $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. All these really smart people that could be using their time wisely. So if they're in the meeting just not contributing to anything, then he's gonna literally just say, hey, what is your purpose for being here? And if they can't really give one, or if it's just not a good enough reason, he'll be like, okay, I need you to leave.
Yeah, and when you think about, a really big company, like Tesla, but it could be a finance company, it could be a blockchain company, whatever it may be. When you really think, there really probably are a lot of people that are in those circumstances where they don't really need to be in that meeting and they're just kind of there to be there, but it's like they're not really getting anything done or contributing to it, so...
Well, yeah, and if you have those couple hours free, you're able to get a lot more done. You feel not pressured. You have free space and free reign to get everything done that you need to get done for the day. Well, if you got a meeting every other hour, then there's only so much you can get done in between those, especially if you need to be mentally prepared and as well if you need to prepare something for each of those meetings throughout the day. I think it's said that the average employee spends their time throughout the week in 17.7, almost 18 meetings a week. That is ridiculous.
That's insane. And it really just doesn't make a lot of sense to me because it said that, employees right now only decline about 14% of the invites that they get, when in reality it says they would like to decline around more 30% of those meetings. And it's just pointless. There's nothing worse than going to a meeting and having no purpose there and nothing to contribute or nothing to really, just take away from it. So I think what can companies really do to combat this to make sure that this isn't a problem going forward?
So I have an idea, and it's because I read it in a book, The Power of Habit. In the book, breaks down the different habits of people, communities and large societies. Well, basically, one of the things when it comes to companies is the way that you can get more things done, the way that, you combat different people in a company, like their self-interest working against each other is habit development. And this could really reduce the need for meetings if companies just develop the habit, more standard operating procedures for things that aren't necessarily manufacturing related, but actually just office workplace stuff. If people already know what they have to do, if people already know what processes need to take place throughout the week, then maybe they won't have to have a meeting on it, or maybe they can just already be like, okay, every Monday, instead of having a meeting going over the ideas, how about, you have your list of ideas for what you need to get done this week on a certain thing submitted, and just send an email to everybody by Monday. It's kind of like, with us with the brand deals, we used to be meeting on those all the time, but now we kind of just send the list to each other like, hey, I'm going to be reaching out to these brands this week. It saves us a lot of time.
Set the foundation and just go from there. Like I think a really good way to go ahead and negate this is by sending looms, just sending those short video notes where you can
Audio
go a little bit more
messages.
in depth, audio messages, or just if you have a meeting where you're not really sure if this person should be included or not, just send them a meeting summary with what you guys went over and kind of some of the conclusions you guys came to, and if they have anything else to add, they can just go ahead and let you know with an email or a call, whatever it may be. So I think there's some good ways to battle this, and we just got to cut out the bad meetings, man. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crypto loans are booming in Latin America right now, and this comes due to the relentless inflation rates as well as the spiking high interest rates from the traditional banks. And ultimately, the reason for this is because the people in Latin America, they need access to credit, and they just can't afford it from traditional banks, and therefore they're turning to crypto. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
It's kind of shocking to me. I didn't really think, or I just never really thought about how the rise of inflation in America and just the USD in general will also affect all these Latin American countries. And it's pretty sad that, the inflation rates are going the way they are right now because the average person just can't afford to even get credit. So that's why it is awesome for, crypto to be able to, it's a great way for people to actually have an access to money. And I mean, like the guy in the TikTok said, what did he say again?
Just saying, story after story, there's people getting freed by crypto being available in these communities, different, not only just for minorities, but also for women and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we interviewed this guy on the street a couple months ago, and he's a big believer in crypto and about how saving people's lives by giving them access to money.
Yeah, well, and then I think also, too, when you're seeing this kind of divide of people not really trusting the domestic currency for their country, they're not really trusting that it's backed by their government. They don't know the value of that dollar of that piece of currency. They don't trust it, and so the percentage of people that don't, this is a win for them. They're seeing the value of this globalized currency taking place.
Yeah, and just kind of to add on to that, and the reason why it's such a better alternative is that when people are having to go to the banks, we saw how when COVID had impacted us, and now with the economic crisis just throughout and the immense impact that inflation has had on the region, what we're seeing is people are turning to crypto because it's 50% lower fees as well as zero maintenance fees. So it's just a much better alternative, and it's way cheaper to get that access. It's decentralized, so it's not backed by the government. They can't just spike it up to these insanely high numbers to where people can't afford it.
Yeah, I think once it gets to a place where it's not as volatile, where it's moving up and down the value of these cryptocurrencies so much, if you could get to a place where it's almost acting kind of like stable coins are, and people can kind of have a general idea of like the value is going to be in this range for a while, kind of like how the US dollar goes like up and down like a few cents. If we could get crypto into that range, but it's still acting as a global currency on a blockchain, oh my God, it could really impact the world in a crazy way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hate to be that guy, but until it becomes a little bit more stable and I still see just a little bit more access and just utility for crypto, I don't know if I'm a big believer currently, especially with NFTs and everything. I don't know. I feel like it was a little bit of a fad there. I'm interested to see if that stuff will still be around 2 years from now.
Yeah, I mean.
Hey, but just remember, they said the same thing about credit cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the same exact thing's going to happen. They said the same thing about online banking, and look at where that's at now.
The thing is that, the crypto got really hot and a lot of buzzwords, a lot of hot topics. The thing is, though, that got people really interested. The thing is, most people aren't seeing what's going on behind the scenes with the development and the building that all these companies are trying to work. It's going to take years of infrastructure to put in place to pretty much switch a lot of these big companies over to a Web3 ecosystem, as well as all these crypto startups and developments. It's going to take years of getting it to a point where they're going to be able to actually provide real value to the average person. Where maybe like right now, only people with big money are able to play in that space. these companies are working to try to be the first one that can move to where the everyday consumer can be able to access that stuff.
I think what really just tainted my vision and just like really perception of crypto as a whole is just there's a small percentage of NFT projects that I feel like are very useful. You know, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, a couple others that, you know, the networking itself pays for itself. But for, you know, 95, 98% of others, I just feel like it was just a giant rug pull, you know, NFTs with no utility. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you decide what you decide to invest in. But I don't know. I feel like that really tainted my vision of my perception of NFTs in crypto, as well as a lot of other people's as well.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the utility of some of the other ones. And I think what's going to happen is over time, those that have the utility are going to stay, and eventually you're going to see a marketplace with a lot more NFT projects that actually do have utility going back and forth. I think right now, a lot of these, you know, it takes a lot to be able to build a really great NFT project with a lot of good infrastructure behind it and a lot of utility for the users to be able to follow through on those promises that you made for people to invest in it. I think that it's just going to take time and a lot of money for companies to be able to provide that sort of thing on a larger scale where there's a lot of companies doing that consistently, and it's not that scam. I think we just got caught up in a time where there's just not enough infrastructure yet across society. I think you have a few big players, like you said, but until we get to that point, you know, it's not the hottest thing in the world right now.
Thank you guys for tuning in. This was episode 14 of The Daily Entrepreneur. Once again, I'm James. I'm here with Jack and Josh. And, you know, if you enjoyed the episode, you learned something new, leave us a like, subscribe, and
Real
go follow
quick,
us on all of our
before
other
you
channels.
close this out, could you give them just a quote of the day?
Wow.
What's the quote of the day?
Oh, this is a good one. There's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it again.
Amen.
Banger.